There are little Tanyas out there. There are little Kiernas out there who need to be able to find their voices without trauma, who need to know that it's okay to break sometimes and you don't need to be a strong Black person, and who need to know that they're not deserving of anything, because deserving is too transactional a word. It means you did something and then you get something. They need to know that they are worthy from in utero. Like, your existence makes you worthy. Your existence gives you a voice. Your existence makes you valuable.
Welcome to Culturati, Conversations with Kierna Mayo. I'm Kierna. On Culturati, we explore the connection between the culture, the community, and the self through a Black feminist lens. The show is a mix of cultural news and very honest conversation with leading creatives that goes deeper than the usual hype. We get into pop culture and politics, sex and struggle. Everything is fair game. Today's episode kicks off a profile series we're calling Chasing Freedom. Listen. This is very special to me. Like a lot of women I know, I choose to think of myself as a free Black woman. My favorite t-shirt is a blood red one my girl Jamila designed with literally that statement on it. Bold block letters, free Black woman. You heard? But depending on the drama of the day, in a world chock full of oppressive forces, a declaration of personal freedom, and I get that the word freedom is so loaded. I mean freedom for a Black woman that gives all the permission, wherever, however. That kind of freedom can be hella elusive. For me, honestly, there's a daily chase. That is to say, every day I have to get it in my mind. My worth. Fuck the systems of oppression. So the idea for this radical conversation series is to intentionally go on an intimate journey, one with fascinating women and femmes in the culture who are positive triggers for my own sense of liberation. It's hard out here for a pimp. Come ride with me on the real-life search for the practices, examples, definitions, and stories of other Black women chasing freedom. I'm going to introduce you to a woman you will want to know forever, and it's only a matter of time before that's actually the case. Trust me, you will know her. But before I bless you with this, sis, some important context about why it's her brand of freedom that does it for me. The top of the year had rolled in with the same ball of confusion, and wait, he shot Megan? Anger the last one had rolled out with. Nothing made sense. COVID isolation, rabid white folks climbing through the Capitol building, more legendary media gatekeepers discovering me a zillion years after the fact, out-of-body experiences watching myself give leadership presentations to young tech entrepreneurs on a screen. I am officially Zoom performance art. At the time, my mental loop was a continuous whining session. I don't want to go back to digital media. What's a magazine? I can't. Damn. Mommy and Daddy are getting old. I don't want to send my baby to college. Damn, look at my neck. I'm getting old. It's not normal to watch this much cable news, Kierna. Who the hell spends this much time on social media not posting?
Post something, Kierna.
Post something, Kierna. And maybe you should stop ghosting people, you think? I'm completely over living with you. I'm completely invisible to you, sir. I should be vegan by now. I should have finished my book by now. I should have sold my screenplay by now. For real? I should be paid by now. Damn it, I don't work for y'all. Who cooks for me? Well, order Chinese then. Hold up. Who do I work for? I was anxious, overwhelmed, and mad about everything. And then, like an angel of the night, an angelita de la noche. On my evening Instagram stroll, at Tanya Denise Fields, aka Mama Tanya, appeared and laid some necessary New Year, New You smackdown on me.
A lot of us have a lot of rhetoric around uplifting Black women, take up space, talk about the shit that's hurt you, but lack the self-awareness to think about the ways in which we encourage Black women and girls and marginalized genders to shrink. And I mean I'm always doing the work to think about why certain shit that Black women do might make me uncomfortable. Because what that lady eat don't make me shit. So why am I so mad at her for being so unapologetically her? Because the reality is, stop talking about your kids. Stop talking about your domestic violence. Stop talking about the shit that your disabilities. I don't want to hear that shit. Because then I got to go do my work. Now I'm uncomfortable. You making me uncomfortable. And that's the reality. A lot of us don't want that reflection. So we get resentful. We get mad at free Black women. We get mad at Black women who gonna call a thing a thing. Even when we benefit from the fact that she's the one calling the thing for all of us.
For me, her words, fiery as they were a balm. Her tears, permission from my own. After I pushed play on her post for a second time, I took a long bath for the first time in months. I cried, I prayed, and I forgave myself for all the unspoken, mounting Black girl disappointment and shame of the past year. And I allowed myself the righteous anger that is always so deep. I dried off feeling like, fuck that, I'm getting free now. Listening to Tanya's curse-filled rant that night in the cold of January was the
bitch, get it together, bitch.
Moment I needed. Warning, sis. This might just be that for you too.
Being a Black woman in the role of leadership in spaces that you are trying to radicalize and decolonize can be hella fucking lonely and hella isolating. Because niggas will talk about all the ways in which Black women are mules and the ways in which we want to uplift her and bring her beyond that and still be leaning on you doing the same shit. Motherfuckers will look to you to show grace and be so busy looking for their grace that they forget to show you grace. Like you stop being a whole human being because you're the boss. Motherfuckers want to benefit from your sunshine and then will complain about the intensity of the sun. And then you don't have a place to go put that shit a lot of times because you scared of being pigeonholed as toxic or abusive. It's like, damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Tanya Denise Fields, aka Mama Tanya, is one of the most keeping it real people on social media that you will ever meet. And in real life, she's a working mother of 6 kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, who lives in the Bronx, in one of the poorest congressional districts in the country. In 2006, she quit her day job to become a full-time activist for food justice and local farming. By 2009, she'd created the Black Feminist Project, which began as the Black Project, as a response to sexist institutional policies, structurally reinforced cycles of poverty, and harsh inequities in wealth and access to capital that result in far too many women being unable to rise out of poverty and sustain their families. Now mainly found on Instagram, Tanya often offers up colorful tales about her own life and work and kitchen.
We bitches that smoke weed and drink natural juices.
Period.
We get high and decide to make a passion fruit, high fiber, almond milk based with kale smoothie. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sophista ratchet bitches. You understand what I'm saying? Bughetto bitches. You know what I'm saying?
The woman gets it. She shamelessly invites us all in and actually gets us closer to freedom by way of public vulnerability, of oversharing, minus the pretension. On her feed, you'll find zero code-switching fucks to give. To know Mama Tanya through social media is to appreciate her outspoken, unapologetic, and yes, N-word laced, self-proclaimed bughetto style. I know I'm here for it. She tells me there are definitely Black women highly critical of her presentation, but they can't sit with us. Who's not here for this breath of fierce, feministy fresh air?
I think that for me, as a woman who stands very close to 6 feet and 5'10", in a pair of small stacked heels, I'm well over 6 feet. I lived most of my life as a fat woman. Up until a year ago, I was close to 300 pounds, and at one point had gotten well over 300 pounds. I'm dark-skinned. I have strong West African features. Things that I'm very proud of now, but for most of my life, I was not proud of. You know, I wouldn't say that I wasn't proud of them, because you don't say things like that, right? But if I had to be completely honest, and I am being completely honest, I wasn't proud of them. I grew up wanting to look like Aaliyah. Seriously, I was talking about that today. Like, Aaliyah was my prototype. Like, if I could wave a magic wand and look like anybody, I wanted to look like Aaliyah. And you grow up getting all of these implicit and explicit messages that girls and women who look like Aaliyah have more of a voice than you do. Let's be very clear. We rob all Black girls and all Black femme presenting folks and all Black queer people of legitimacy. We always are trying to make us, prove that they have a right to just fucking exist, quite honestly. And then you intersect that with a childhood where I had a parent who was what we would call now abusive. I'm sure she didn't think she was abusive back then, and it's not something she's still willing to own, and that's okay. I understand that. I'm not stuck on it. But if we're going to use my language, my mama was abusive. I got my ass kicked with very little provocation and was constantly saying stuff to me like, ain't no man gonna want no loud-ass woman. Why are you so loud all the time? Ain't no man gonna want no big-ass woman. Tanya, you better put that food down. Your ass is getting big. You're spreading. Stuff like that. I'm sure she thought was being helpful, but it did a lot of harm.
And we have so much of that, like, negative affirmation in our parenting.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so what it made me feel like was, I need to shrink. Anything that has to do with me, anything about the way that I feel, it doesn't matter, because I don't matter, because I'm loud, because I'm big, because I'm dark, because by Western European standards, I'm not pretty. So my thoughts and what I think about anything about myself or how I feel does not matter. And that haunted me. If you believe that, if that's your narrative, then that's the way you make decisions, through that lens. And this is a Mama Tanya exclusive, girl, because I've never said this publicly. But I've gotten to a point now where, like, if we're going to tell the truth, we're going to tell the whole truth. And everybody who is your skin folk ain't your kinfolk. At that time, a very well-reputed, she fashioned herself as an environmentalist. I had worked with her. I had considered her a mentor. We parted ways. It was not amicable, but I was not harboring any resentment. I just wanted to move on with my life. I remember leaving and her saying to me, I know that you are going out on your own, but you're not ready yet. You're not refined enough. You want to talk about respectability? This was a respectable bitch, honey, okay? And I remember looking at her, and I smiled, and I said, thank you. And I left. And then I went downstairs, and I sobbed, almost to the point of vomiting. I was so distraught. I was so heartbroken. And then she proceeded to engage in these acts of sabotage. And her piece de resistance was calling up this white lady who had curated TEDx Manhattan, who had seen me speak before, who wanted me to speak. And she told this white lady, you got to be very careful letting Tanya on your stage. You have a certain kind of audience that you've curated. Tanya's not ready. She's going to say the wrong thing. And so for, what has it been now, 10 years? 10 years, I kept that to myself. For 10 years, I never told anybody that. For like a year after I left this Black woman who had spent a considerable amount of time mentoring me, she was sabotaging me. And I didn't have community at that time that could really intervene. you know? But, I started to build that community, and that's actually what ended it. And probably after that whole thing, it sparked something very rebellious in me. And I still there was still a lot of truth telling that I need to do. There was still a lot of ways in which I didn't really know my own voice, but it was the beginning of me recognizing that I had a voice and that I could use it on my behalf.
This is Culturati, and I'm Kierna Mayo. I'm speaking with Tanya Denise Fields, founder of the Black Feminist Project, activist, writer, mother, farmer, chef, and all-around remarkable woman. Tanya was a featured essayist in the powerful book, You Are Your Best Thing by Tarana Burke, founder of the Me Too movement, and Brene Brown. Tanya's essay, Dirty Business, The Messy Affair of Rejecting Shame, is utterly transformative. From a literary standpoint, for all my readers and bookstagrammers out there, her essay was genuinely one of the most powerful in the collection, and there are some great voices in this book. But Tanya's piece is commanding. Her turn of phrase and Black girl realness combines for a kind of potency that harkens the late warrior writer Toni Cade Bambara. In May 2021, I had the privilege to join Tanya at the opening of her community gathering spot, the Alice Field Center, up in the Bronx, New York. Here she is reading an excerpt of her essay on stage at the center's opening. Get some tissues, y'all. You are going to need them.
My shame, my guilt for existing, for being viewed as ugly and undesirable, for surviving, has always been rooted in the way I look. It has not only lived in my body, it has been because of my body, and everything else has rippled out from there. And sitting there in the 41st precinct being asked by some dismissive-ass white cop who couldn't be bothered to look me in my black-ass face why it took me so long to disclose, I just felt the most tired I'd ever felt in my life. What had shame gotten me? Shame doesn't course correct or compel folks to make better choices. I was living in a community full of women who felt shame, who had been born from shame, who projected nothing but shame. And it did nothing for us. It had done nothing for me. Shame is a liar, a thief, a murderer of dreams and vision. It is a manipulator. It too is an abuser.
I want to read a little something that you wrote because it just, again, it changed me. Mm-hmm. I mean, sis, you talk a lot now about surviving. You talk about survival, but you talk specifically about surviving domestic violence, partner violence, and I have almost never talked about the fact that I too am a survivor of partner violence. So this is personal again. I almost died in front of my kids, and I was tired, exhausted, cracked wide the fuck open, and broken into a million pieces by shame. And here I was just holding my guts in my hands, and I got to see what I was made of. And it wasn't shame. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't ugliness, lack, or deficiency. I am magic, cocoa powder, shards of glass and shrapnel, and the deepest parts of my grandmother's imaginations. I am savory and sweet, salt, sugar, and lime, possessing the gentleness of the brightest lilies and the strength and the temerity of the most destructive storms. Most important, I am worthy, and that was the critical shift. So,
I wrote that essay. I read it when I sent it to Tarana, and I read it for the audio book, and I read it at my opening, and I've not, that's really 2 times too many. I do not enjoy hearing it back, not because I think that it's bad, but because it brings up all of these really visceral feelings in my actual body, whew. My girlfriend over here handing me tissues. Here, girl.
But what I'm reading aloud, less for you and more for anyone who's listening, because the beauty of the language of telling the story of dirty business is not to be lost. And I want everyone to treat themselves to that. So thank you. And thank you so much for going there, because I can't imagine what it took to get through this essay. As somebody who spends so much time talking about struggle, the struggle, your struggle, our struggle, are you giving yourself permission to like slip into this little Hollywood moment?
People around me are like, how are you going to harness the power of this? And I'm a little bit oblivious because I've opened a community center, because I have a farm to run, because I have a teenage daughter who is transitioning into adulthood, who is living in a spare apartment, who has anxiety and needs my constant guidance and love. And because so much of me before needed so much external validation, and now I really don't. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. Everyone loves to be told that they're doing a good job and that they're beautiful and that they're smart and they're brilliant. And anybody who tells you that they don't is lying. That's just literally how we're wired as human beings. We know from like a scientific standpoint, from a physiological standpoint, that people who get constant positive affirmations as children, their brains develop differently than those who receive constant negative affirmation and negative and violent stimuli. So we are literally wired to look for those types of things, and they make us feel like happy, whole human beings, within a certain context. Any obsession about that, however, probably is indicative of like low self-esteem or some other like personality thing. And I'm just not in that space anymore. For me, the validation that I need is to be like, okay, this essay, it was cute and everything. Like I dug deep. That's nice. I hope that this offered folks something and that it can be a part of somebody's healing journey. But the affirmation that I need for myself is to take my organization to over $1 million in budget. Right? Like right now we got like $20,000 in the bank and a bitch is stressed, right? I got 6 team members I gotta worry about, right? I still live in a fucking tenement building.
Pause. Let's really hold all of this. Part of the wonder of this woman and the many women like her who lead and sacrifice and provide for others simply as a matter of course is that unless they tell you about the external and internal struggles they face, you'd probably never know. But through her testimony, here on Culturati, online, in the book, Tanya is disrupting the martyr complex many of us have. She is saying out loud, this shit is hard, but I'm built for it. Let's go. This sis is chasing freedom.
And so for me, the affirmation, the moment comes when I don't just open a storefront community center. It's when I buy the building, right? The affirmation for me is not just when I do the essay, but it's when I really do the really hard mirror work of being like, no, bitch, you are brilliant. You are actually a writer. Own that shit. Sit your ass down and write that whole book. The affirmation for me is when my book makes any kind of list. Amazon, New York Times, the Black Girl's Guide to the Library, whatever. I don't care. Make a list, right? If I make a list, then I'll be happy. Like, so that's where I am right now. Like, I'm proud of myself. I am elated that I wrote something that really is out here in the world and is valuable to folks because it's helping them, because it's giving them the permission and the space to unpack some stuff that somebody told them that they couldn't or they didn't know how to. But it is just what you said. It's a moment. And I'm appreciating the moment. If anything, it's actually just making me much more diligent. It's making me much more disciplined about some other things that I think are really super important, because there are little Tanyas out there, there are little Kiernas out there who need to be able to find their voices without trauma, who need to know that it's okay to break sometimes, and you don't need to be a strong Black person and who need to know that they're not deserving of anything, because deserving is too transactional a word. It means you did something and then you get something. They need to know that they are worthy from in utero. Like, your existence makes you worthy.
Yes.
Your existence gives you a voice, right? Your existence makes you valuable.
Tanya Denise Fields is undeniable. Her star is catching fire. Mama Tanya's Kitchen, the fast-growing intersectional foodie community she started building around yummy, accessible food on her old Facebook page, has already led to guest appearances on The Rachel Ray Show. Tanya actually started this, but let's not keep calling her the homegirl Rachel Ray. Kicking it about food accessibility with her gold fronts on and a freshly done set, honey, Tanya Denise Fields is no facsimile of any white woman anywhere.
Can you speak to everyone watching how it feels for you and what drives you to serve your community?
You know, I'm trying to, first of all, hi, Rachel.
Hi!
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I'm so excited to have you.
I am like the South Bronx homegirl, Rachel Ray. Like, that's it. I'm trying to make food accessible, right? In all of the ways to people in my community. You have made food accessible, right? When we think about lifestyle and genre, Rachel has made food accessible. And so that is a very similar energy that I bring to food justice work, that I bring to my little online burgeoning community of Mama Tanya's Kitchen followers.
So y'all, this is what it looks like to be a sis from the Bronx with gifts for the world. Tanya is for sure about to level up in a bunch of ways, but know that for her, home base will always be the priority. I was there when the Alice Fields Center finally opened in May. It was something to see Tanya own the room in her all white with her popping red lips. The space was overflowing with people who love her. Women, children, men. They were masked, but they were there. I was there. We were all floating in the midst of the ultimate manifestation of years of planning and hard work. A for us, by us vision realized.
You know, opening this center feels very surreal. I have to be honest. It felt like a montage from like a Tyler Perry movie, you know, like the single mama from the hood who decides to do a block party to raise $10,000 to open a community center for the at-risk children. It's giving. That's what it's giving. And there were definitely some elements of that. I didn't have any big funders. There was no capital campaign. I have been saying for years that we needed a brick and mortar space. The work that I was doing felt very disjointed in some ways. Like, okay, you got a farm and you doing your not just talk conferences. A couple years ago, I was like, there are all of these pieces, but I don't think people really get the vision because you need an anchor. And not only do you need an anchor for the organization, people need a soft spot to land. Black families need a soft spot to land. Like, we are in communities, and this only got ratcheted up the more that I started to become very, very cognizant of just how rabid state-sanctioned violence and police brutality is in our country. It's open. It's rabid. It is unrelenting. It is irrational, you know? Like, you literally can be walking down the street and then like 10 minutes later, a cop can literally kill you. Like, this is literally happening. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not dragging it. Like, you can literally be walking down the street, minding your black ass business, or sitting in your own home, eating ice cream or playing PlayStation with your nephew and end up dead 5 minutes later. That is the country that we live in. Can you think about the tremendous amount of psychological weight that puts on people individually and collectively? You intersect that with the extremely high rates of sexual assault that Black women and children and femmes are dealing with, and that there is no system that we can go to that will hold us, that will save us, that is interested in restorative or transformative justice. And I'm like, we need a little spot of something. Where is the space where we can just be like, Black women and femmes have paid in blood. My grandmama paid in blood. Her grandmama paid in blood. And her grandmama paid in blood. Where is a space that says, sis, I see you. Sib, I see you. And we just gonna create a space where you ain't gotta do nothing else but come here and find your little piece of joy. If that's getting on one of these exercise bikes we got right here, mama, you can get on the exercise bike. If it's going through the little bit of pantry we got and picking up some cereal and some granola bars and some she frou trail mix, girl, go do it. If it's going in the refrigerator and getting a ginger beer and a leftover plate or some cake, do it. If it's just sitting here scrolling on your Instagram while your child can wild out and run around without you being scared that somebody gonna call ACS, or without you being so embarrassed that you say some awful things to your child that you probably should not because you just want them to behave. Bring that little child up in here and let him run and do whatever it is. Like, I mean, you saw even at the opening, people trying to shush the kids. Let them kids play.
Girl, you're creating the thing that we've all needed, that we will continue to need. The literal physical safe space. Mm-hmm. And walking in there, the energy, it was just clear to me that this is just going to go on to be a lot of people's necessary corner in the world, you know, where some conversations are going to happen, some tears are going to get wiped, some food is going to get had.
Right. Absolutely.
The sangria situation was, girl.
So one of the drinks that I'm super proud of is my sangria, which I happened to make quite by accident. You know, one of the things I say when I do this work is that I'm going to bring the fancy back to food justice. I want to be like the love child of, like, if Rachel Ray, Oprah, and B. Smith and Little Kim had an orgy, I'd be the love child. That's the kind of wave that I'm on, right? And so I know a lot of us are trying to do a lot with a little bit. And we can do that with function and style and grace and fanciness. You can get just boxed or bottled wine like this. I know this is the cheap stuff, but we're gonna make it fancy. This thing right here probably was like $4 in a Tic Tac or something. It's not expensive at all, you know? And then you can add frozen fruit. Frozen fruit is not bad. Some frozen fruit is actually healthier than some of the natural stuff you get because it's quick frozen as soon as it's harvested. So frozen fruit, and it's already chopped, girl. You ain't got to do nothing but pour it in the blender. And then I'm really big on texture, right, and nuance. One of my favorite things is ginger beer. That brings a nice carbonation into it. Ginger is amazing, right? Now I'm gonna show you what the trick is to the texture. You're like, why are you making sangria in a blender? You just watch me, girl. Okay, I'm gonna add honey because this is something you wanna blend in because honey is thick and it sticks. We don't put the ginger beer in until the end. And so you wanna blend it until it's smooth.
Listen, you can't tell me nothing about my sangria, baby. I need to, when Mama Tanya's Kitchen gets her merchandise and everything together, the sangria is the first added value product, okay? You know how they got that girl from Real Housewives of Carajo Land or whatever. She got that shit, Skinny Wine or whatever the fuck it is.
Skinny girl. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna have Mama Tanya's sangria.
That's the ticket. I'm telling you, it was incredible. We really do live in Mama Tanya's world, y'all. Welcome to Culturati. This is the Chasing Freedom series. Get free with me. And while you're at it, get you some Mama Tanya sangria. Anyone who has anything to give, to donate, to share, from cash to anything else, how can they actively support the work? Because this is how we lift up our girls and our femmes. We support them by being around them, by saying our neighborhoods are still ours, right? We don't have to run and escape every time we want to feel like whole people, to use your language.
Right. Well, thank you so much for asking me that. You know, you came in the space, it's modest, it's becoming really beautiful. We have children's toys in here and the beginning of a food pantry and shelving and refrigerators. We're building a library. We're talking about launching our books and breakfast. and it's just part of a calendar of programming. When we say this is a community center, we really mean that in the authentic way. I am literally here at work. After I get off of this with you, I'm going to finish the request for workshop proposals. We're going to pay people to come here and do what they already do for this community. If you are an art teacher who teach art and you want to come in and teach art once a week for 4 weeks, then we want you to come here and do it. I am under no illusions that I have to do and be everything. That's foolishness, right? And I also understand the myth that the hood ain't got shit. There are so many amazing, beautiful, smart, brilliant, inventive people living in the hood who want to share all of those things, but lack the structure and the support to be able to do so.
No one's asking them to come be brilliant. Come show us what you got. I'm not going to front. I feel extraordinarily privileged to get to be in conversation with complex and layered women like Tanya Denise Fields. This is honestly why I created the Chasing Freedom series. It's very personal, and admittedly, my motivations are a little selfish, but Tanya's example, her lived experiences, and her bravery in sharing them helps me, specifically as a Black woman, feel freer. I hope meeting her here on Culturati does this for you too, no matter your race or gender identity. Look for Mama Tanya on Instagram at Tanya Denise Fields. And be sure to support the Black Feminist Project. Go to theblackfeministproject.org. Donate time, donate money, donate intellect, donate intention. I love you, Tanya, girl. Culturati, Conversations with Kierna Mayo, is presented by Breakbeat and produced by PRX Productions. I'm the host and chief creator, Kierna Mayo. Our production team is Florence Barreau Adams, Sierra Spragley Ricks, Jonathan Cabral, and Jocelyn Gonzalez. Dave Mays and Kendrick Ashton are executive producers for Breakbeat. Visit breakbeatmedia.com or at Breakbeat Media on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're feeling Culturati, be sure to follow me at Kierna Mayo, that's KIERNAMAYO, on Instagram and Twitter. Share, comment, and subscribe to Culturati wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to Culturati, Conversations with Kierna Mayo. We'll be back every couple weeks. Come talk with me.